Welcome, everybody. Welcome into another edition of Trust the Mics. This is the Sixers post-trade deadline edition. What questions have emerged? We are back. I was away last week, so we missed the very quiet trade deadline, but it was loud enough that we have plenty to talk about. Let's get into it right now. I am Mike Gill, along with Michael Caskey-Blomane. This is Trust the Mics, a Sixers show. What's up, man?
What's up, Mike? How you feeling?
Doing all right. A little late night. Actually, after the third quarter, I got to bail out of that game because it was pretty ugly. Portland, I don't think, has missed since.
Yeah, I don't blame you on that one. That was a rough one for sure.
Rough one for sure. We didn't get a chance. I was at the Super Bowl last week, so I was crazy busy down there. We're going to try to connect on the Jared McCain trade, which I do have a lot of thoughts on, and we're going to talk a little bit about that right now. I don't like the trade at all.
Yeah, let's get right into it. I knew you'd have some thoughts about it, Mike. Let's hear it.
I don't like the trade for a lot of reasons. What do you think about the trade before I start diatribing on why I don't like the trade?
No, I'm kind of on the same page as you, and I obviously definitely have a lot of thoughts. I'm glad we were able to hop on the pod here. I don't like the trade personally either, but not necessarily for the fact that they moved on from Jared McCain, like specifically. But doing that move and then coupling it with literally bringing nothing back to improve the roster. So like you have this roster that has some holes, subtracting from it and then bringing nothing back is bad optically, Mike. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I get like Jared McCain was not a guy that Nick Nurse trusted. He's clearly not a guy that the organization looked at as a guy that would be a legitimate contributor in like the playoff rotation this year. And they obviously had concerns and questions moving forward, Mike, about his fit with VJ Edgecombe and Tyrese Maxey. So I understand what they think was selling high on him. Morey made that clear at his press conference last week. They, in this trade, they felt they sold high on him. But in a game like last night, Mike, you see it, like they don't have guard depth, and it's just tough to swallow getting rid of a promising player. To me, it felt like selling low. I wasn't shocked. I knew that he wasn't in great standing with Nick Nurse and with Daryl Morey. But yeah, it's just tough optically, Mike, to get rid of a young, promising guy like that was clearly well-liked in the locker room, and then to bring nothing back in terms of improvements or reinforcements from the team. It was a pretty brutal look for the front office, I think.
Yeah, I mean, you just mentioned now, Morey says they thought they sold high, and maybe, your point is well taken. The Sixers just didn't value him at all. Like, he fell out of favor with Nurse. I don't know what Morey thought about him. If he sold him out for, a low-level first-rounder and a bunch of twos, and he's saying we sold high here, kind of tells you what he thinks of him to begin with. Because selling high would have been at the end of, somewhere last year when he was cooking. And it was apparent that he wasn't right when he came back. So did he fall out of favor because of his play when he came back from the injuries? Because if that's the case, they didn't really give him an opportunity. And now you look at a team that has no guard depth, can't shoot. Oklahoma City's not dumb. You're telling me that the Oklahoma City Thunder were like, hey, I got a great idea. Let's just go get this guy because he stinks? No way. Last night I'm watching OKC, and you know what I saw? Isaiah Joe, a guy that you miscalculated on, and Jared McCain go 5 of 8 at one point they were from 3 last night. You don't think that those two guys would have been helping this team? I know Joe's been gone for quite a long time here, but he was another guy that they miscalculated. Why? I think the Sixers get hung up on, though. These guys are too one-dimensional. He's not a great defender. You can't shoot. The team can't shoot. You took away your best shooter. I don't think they gave him any opportunity to grow back into the role that he was in. And then he finally starts to seemingly find a little bit of buzz with Embiid. It felt like him and Embiid had a little something going there. And you saw him last night. Anybody watch him last night? You saw a little Jared McCain. He's not pretty when he does it, but he knows what he's doing. He's crafty. He hit the long 3. On Saturday, he hits a deep 3 for them late in the game. I mean, there's like 4 minutes left in that game. He comes up and hit 2 games already. I feel like he's hit more threes with them in 2 games, but I think they could have given him a bigger role for what they got in return. And then for him to come out and say, we thought we could have spun these picks and there was nothing there, that's a bad look as well.
Yeah, I don't think he did himself any favors by admitting that, Mike. Like if that was the thought process going into it, that's one you might almost want to keep under wraps, because it made it seem like they didn't have a plan to say, like, we did this early specifically. Like they traded Jared on Wednesday before the deadline, which Daryl said was specifically so that they could take those picks that they brought in and hopefully, spin them forward and bring something back. Whether or not that was ever the actual plan, or if the plan was, as a lot of people have said, Mike, was mainly just to duck the tax, and that was a big part of it. Like, we'll probably never know the truth there. It's just tough. It's a really tough look. And especially the thing is, you were right. Like if selling high on McCain would have been last year after the injury, and it almost just seemed like they didn't even really give him a chance this year. Now, VJ Edgecombe's addition obviously kind of changed the trajectory. If they ended up with, let's say, a guy like Ace Bailey in the draft instead of Edgecombe, maybe there's more of a role and more minutes there for McCain. The fact that it's Edgecombe at that off-ball guard spot, obviously did an impact on where the Sixers viewed McCain moving forward. But like, even if you didn't view McCain as a guy that was going to play legitimate playoff minutes in Nick Nurse's rotation, and Nurse, obviously, Mike, by the way, is notorious for going very thin on playoff rotations going probably 7 or 8 deep. So there is merit to that. Like, he probably would not have been in the playoff rotation, but you have to make it to the playoffs, Mike. I mean, this is a team that's right on the edge of the play-in tournament right now with, 20 high, 30 games left in the season. You need someone to eat up these guard minutes. We had Kyle Lowry playing in the first quarter last night because Quentin Grimes is out. We've talked multiple times on this pod about Maxi's workload and the number of minutes that he's playing. Like, even if McCain wasn't a guy that you thought was going to have a long-term future here, he's a guy that could have eaten up some minutes for you in the regular season and potentially worked himself back into a state where maybe he could contribute a little bit in the playoffs. So it's just tough. And again, in like a vacuum, I don't hate the move of trying to recoup some value for Jared McCain. Maybe they genuinely did think that they were selling high, and it's hard to judge. A year from now, either he's going to be a big part of the rotation in Oklahoma City and they're going to look bad, or he's going to have fallen out of the rotation and be a guy that you won't get a first-round pick for. But either way, like, it just felt like giving up on him a little too early in my eyes, Mike.
Well, and I think that's the case. I don't think, like, the guy tears his knee up, and then he has to come back from that. And then as he's coming back from that, he injures the thumb. So now he can't shoot, and the knee is not all the way back. That knee situation takes a little time to kind of gain some confidence and come back from. He's not the most athletic guy in the world to begin with. So if you were judging him based on what you saw right then and there, I don't think that's really fair to him. You had a guy last year that was the rookie of the year. I mean, for all intents and purposes, he was the best player on the team for about a month stretch. And you basically gave him no shot to show that what you saw was attainable again. They never gave him a role. They never gave him an opportunity. I remember debating, about VJ Edgecombe and him a little while back, and my whole point was, is Edgecombe going to be able to shoot the three with the consistency? Because even McCain, who didn't shoot the ball all that well at all, never felt like he ever got going, was shooting almost 39% from three, which is probably the best that you had on the team in the short minutes that he got here. You don't know what Quentin Grimes' future is. Are you now saying that you are trading McCain with the intent to try to lock up Grimes to a big-time long-term deal? Are you even sure that Grimes is a better option than McCain today? Yikes. That, to me, is a big question. So, now Grimes doesn't play last night, so it makes it even look way worse because your next guard off the bench has to be Kyle Lowry last night, and you traded Eric Gordon as well, which I have no problem with, obviously. But right now, you can make a good conversation that the battle for those third guard minutes should have been between Grimes and McCain, not handed to Grimes.
Right. I agree completely, Mike. I mean, I do think in the short term, at least in Nick Nurse's eyes, Grimes is more valuable because of the defensive side of the ball. I mean, Jared McCain has not been a good defender. I mean, I won't sugarcoat it. He's not been a good defender this season. Part of that's probably the knee and a lack of mobility. And Grimes has been better on that floor. But I'm in agreement with you. I threw this out on X last week, Mike. I know you were over on the West Coast, so you might not have seen it, but I'd be curious to hear your thoughts. I kind of compared this move to the Michael Carter-Williams trade a decade back, and I'll tell you why. Michael Carter-Williams, rookie of the year, that first year, 2013, he was drafted, came out, put up really good numbers on a really bad Sixers team, won rookie of the year, and looked like a piece of the puzzle moving forward. Like myself included, and a lot of people at that time that were covering the team was like, okay, this might be the point guard or a legit piece of this team moving forward. Then by the next trade deadline, his second year in the league, all of a sudden, boom, he's shipped to Milwaukee. Obviously, different front office, different coaching staff. But I see similarities, Mike. I see a Jared McCain who, like you said, probably would have won Rookie of the Year last year, put up probably what I would consider inflated numbers in an inflated role on a bad Sixers team. And in both players, the Sixers had, legitimate long-term concerns about their ability. With Michael Carter-Williams, it was almost the opposite. He could do pretty much everything, but he could not shoot at a guard position when shooting as a guard in the NBA is very important. Jared McCain obviously could shoot. I think they had legitimate long-term concerns about his defensive ability, rebounding, pretty much everything else, along with his fit with Maxey and Edgecombe. So they flipped him at the deadline for what they considered to be selling high. So to me, obviously different players, different skill sets, different time. McCain as a shooter would be more valuable, but the organizational thought process behind both trades, I saw some parallels there. What do you think about that?
I see what you're saying. I don't see it the same impact because Michael Carter Williams won the Rookie of the Year, and I do back then. That was really the jumping off point of the process. Was
right.
We had this guy who won the Rookie of the Year. They traded him in the offseason. It was a draft night, right? Was it draft night?
MCW.
Yeah. When did they trade him? Was
Deadline.
it on the draft night or the deadline? It was
right
on the trade deadline. Right.
Yeah.
And they got draft picks. But they got – their whole point was we were going to trade him at the highest point because he won the Rookie of the Year, and we saw that as the best he was ever going to be. And in return, they got a really high – I mean, that was the Nerlens Noel pick, right? They got Noel.
I forget. Noel and Carter Williams were the same year. They were both drafted in 2013. I forget. I'd have to double check what the picks were.
No, they got. It was. They got the pick from. My God, that thing was bouncing all over the place. It was like the Lakers, right?
Yeah, I need to do a deep dive to figure out.
But I do see what you're saying. They were thinking that, hey, what we saw from McCain his rookie year, that's the best he's ever going to be. He's never going to get back to that level. So let's just get what we can get. If they got calls, and the best they got was the Oklahoma City call, and they took it. Then, yeah, I can see them saying, look, we flashed him out there last year. He showed you what he was, but we didn't see anything close to that in any practices or games this year, so let's sell high. Fine. I'll reserve judgment when the Rockets pick comes to fruition, but for now, this is a team that Joel Embiid is coming out and saying, yo, we keep ducking the tax, and you just gave away the only guy. I'm looking at the shooting percentages right now. You got Paul George, 38%, not here. Maxey, 37.9. Oubre, 37.9. McCain, 37.8. He's the best shooter that you got outside of Maxey. Oubre, we know, is erratic as can be. He's had a great season, but he's not a 38% three-point shooter. McCain was growing that number upwards, not down, and you end up trading him. By the way, you go and look at Quentin Grimes, 34%. Not good. You go and look at VJ Edgecombe. That number's starting to drop. He's at 35. It was what I was talking to you about a month ago. I don't know that VJ Edgecombe is a 38% three-point shooter. He got off to a great start. Surprised everyone. But can he hold that consistency? By the way, watching him last night, you're starting to wonder, all right, is he going to be able to hit the three at that clip? Jared McCain's arrow was going up on the three. I don't understand this one at all, especially because you couldn't get anything else with those picks. Now, if they blow me away next year with that 29th pick in the draft, whatever pick it turns out to be, the Rockets are pretty good. I don't think it's going to be a very good draft spot. Now, maybe they take the 3 seconds with that pick, move themselves up to 15 or something, because they're going to lose their own pick, right? I mean, that Oklahoma City thing, they're not getting that pick. So they at least got themselves back in play in the first round in what is supposed to be a very good draft. So I can see it from that perspective.
Yeah, and that Morey was asked specifically about that. He said that the fact that this draft is supposed to be stacked didn't necessarily play into the decision to trade Jared. But you have to think that, you know, like you said, Mike, that first round pick this year for the Sixers is only top 4 protected. They're not going to finish, obviously, in the bottom 4 of the standings. That's going to go to Oklahoma City. I think Daryl thinks that getting that first round pick back, whether or not they end up using it, or to your point, moving up with it, using it in a trade over the offseason, I think he saw that as a better long-term route to improvement for the Sixers than keeping. I mean, he basically said as much. He viewed that. He thought that pick will help the Sixers in the future more than Jared McCain did. I mean, Morey basically said everything without coming out and saying it at the press conference. He basically confirmed, Mike, what you said is they just did not value Jared McCain that much. They did not see a long-term upside for him, which is tough because, to your point, it is very well taken, Mike, in terms of the shooting. Like, that's one skill in the NBA today that it's invaluable, having guys that can come in and space the floor around star players. And that's like Jared McCain had that off the bat as a rookie. It wasn't going anywhere. He was only going to continue to get more comfortable with that. So even if he never develops into a well-rounded guy, like, two-way guard type player, he's always still going to be a guy that can come in and knock down shots. And we've seen how valuable that can be even just in the Sixers, Seth Curry, JJ Redick, Robert Covington. I mean, obviously Rocco played defense, did other things, but like the value of a shooter on the roster is very valuable. And now, like you said, Mike, they got rid of it and brought nothing back. It's just optically, it is not good, especially also, as you alluded to, after Joel Embiid's comments. He's not a guy that comes out and asks for too much for the Sixers, makes a lot of demands. He, said what he said, and they basically did the opposite.
They did the opposite, and then they tried to say, we were hoping to move the picks that we got for something, and nothing was there. So you got egg on your face twice.
Right. And we'll never know. I mean, that might be true, but the fact that he specifically asked to not dodge the tax, and that was literally the only thing that this team did at the deadline. And now you're in that dilemma where you're playing Kyle Lowry. Every year you were looking at the buyout candidates, which is really not looking great this year, Mike. I don't know if you've got to take a look, but like
buyout I wanted to transition to that because, what's in the buyout market? I'm actually Keith Pompey. The OG is going to join me on the radio today at 5:30 tonight. So nice. We are live Tuesday right now. If you're seeing this later on at 5:30 at night, tonight I'll have Keith on because he wrote the article about Lonzo Ball, I think Chris Boucher. He did mention Chris Middleton as a possibility, a long shot, and there was one other name that I can't remember. What are some of the buyout options that intrigue you?
There's so few and far between, Mike. You look at guys, Cam Thomas already got signed. I thought he was a guy that you could at least potentially like bring in and have come off the bench in like a guard capacity and give you some points. You mentioned Lonzo Ball. I mean, the Sixers need another ball handler, another guard, Mike, with Jared McCain gone. We saw it last night. Like Kyle Lowry should not be playing first quarter minutes for the Sixers. Trendon Watford, it looks like, is kind of getting converted into almost like a pseudo point forward role now with what we've seen since the trade where he's been initiating the offense, bringing the ball up a little bit, which could be an interesting wrinkle. But I mean, I think you need a guard. Chris Paul's out there. I know he's old. He's washed, hates Daryl Morey, probably wouldn't come. I think Lonzo would be okay. But I mean, there's just not a lot of options out there, Mike. They're in a really tough spot.
Yeah. Lonzo Ball to me is cooked. He is a ball handler, by the way. Couldn't shoot then, can't shoot now. I mean, so I don't know where he helps at all, other than if you want to say ball handler. I mean, this year in Cleveland, he's 27% from three.
Yeah.
Now he's got that weird wonky shot. He actually was a pretty good 3-point shooter earlier in his career, but this year he seems like he's cooked. We've talked about it a lot on the pod. They got to get a rebounder, someone that can just clean the glass. I don't know if Chris Boucher still has anything left in the tank to do that. I know he played for Nurse in Toronto. Middleton probably cooked. I mean, how's he helping you? That was the other name. What was it? Oh, Cam Thomas. He already signed, right?
Yeah, he signed with Milwaukee, I believe.
So I don't see a scenario where you're getting much help in the buyout market unless I saw Kevin Love's name. You're going to go get a guy like that. Unless there's a surprise name that there was one other name that was somewhat interesting, but it's not hit me right now. I'm still a little jet lag from my trip there, but
yeah.
I'm like watching the game last night. I don't even know. We talked about this third quarter, and like you can't even come up with a scenario of what the hell's going on in these third quarters, but that was awful last night.
It's mind-blowing and makes no sense, Mike. The Sixers genuinely might be the worst third quarter team that we've ever seen.
Do you have any hypothesis as to why?
I mean, instinctually, I want to point to coaching, but I can't specifically figure out what it is about coaching. But to me, if the team consistently all season, I mean, we're in February, double digits, February 10th, Mike. You and I have been talking about this on the pod since probably the second week of the season, that they just come out of halftime flat. And I don't know what they do in that halftime locker room, but to me, some of that has to fall on coaching. You have to find a way to get your guys motivated to not come out. I mean, losing in the third quarter by 27 points to a Portland Trailblazers team is embarrassing. I mean, it's just embarrassing, Mike. And there's no easy fix. It literally looks like they come out unprepared and they don't execute and they don't get back in transition. Like last night, they were getting smoked up and down the court, easy transition baskets for the Blazers, offensive rebounds. Like everything just comes to a head in the third quarter, and it's been a season-long story. Anytime he's been asked about it, Nick Nurse almost turns it into a joke. Like it seems he almost doesn't have any answers himself. So I certainly don't have answers as to why it's happening, Mike, but it needs to be addressed, as we've been saying for months now.
And I went like, listen, I wish I could sit here and give you a hypothesis as to why, this is the reason why. Another thing that bothers me, I'm a big fan of Charles Bassey, okay? They signed Bassey to a second 10-day contract. They haven't used him one time. Last night, you have a game in which you're getting your tail kicked, right? You don't rebound a lick. The team can't rebound. I talked about it in the first pod that we ever did. Some of the biggest concerns of the season. I said, I don't know where they're going to rebound the basketball. Who's going to rebound on this team? So you bring in a guy on a night where Joel doesn't play. And I know I've been on the Bassey train for years. I'm a big fan of Bassey. He doesn't get in the game last night. Let me just ask a question. Maybe you can answer this for me. I don't know what this guy's ever done to somebody, but in San Antonio, if his per 36, he averages almost 14 rebounds a game, 13 rebounds in 2023. San Antonio last year, 14 and a half rebounds. Memphis, 2 games this year, 17 rebounds. So it's obvious the guy does one thing, and he does one thing pretty well. He rebounds the ball. Now, let me go to his regular numbers. Those are his per 36. These are his per game. In San Antonio, in 36 games 2 years ago, he only played 10 minutes a game. He got 4 rebounds. That's more than everybody on the whole damn team gets here, right? Yeah. In 2022, he played 14 minutes a game. He averaged 5.5 rebounds per game in 14.5 minutes. He played 15 minutes a game this year in Memphis. And in 15 minutes per game, he averaged 7.5 rebounds. Like, I get it. He's probably playing garbage minutes or whatever. He does one thing your team doesn't do. He rebounds.
Yeah, facts. And the fact that they bring him in and he hasn't played a lick, it's weird, Mike. It is.
And in a game like last night when you're getting your ass kicked.
Put him in. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Put him in.
He plays 0. He's the only guy on the team that didn't play last night. He's the only guy. Patrick Baldwin Jr. got minutes last night. But he got burned last night. But Bassey, whose 10-day contract, you saved your ass on a roster spot. You can't say, hey, you know what, man? Thanks for helping us out. We're going to get you out there. Listen, Janai Broome played 5 minutes last night. Do I need to see Broome play 5 minutes last night? I couldn't see, hey, Bassey, can you go in there and show me if you can have a little tenacity and go grab me a rebound? Broome doesn't rebound, doesn't shoot all that well. Like, I get it. I like Broome. I call his games blue coats. He's a nice player. Maybe they develop him. Maybe he starts hitting that 3 as a stretch. Not a rebounder. This team needs a guy that can get a rebound. It's infuriating.
Yeah, no, I mean, completely. I was literally thinking the same thing, Mike. Like bringing in Bassey, obviously, I know it was for, contract and roster reasons and the two-way contracts and everything like that. But to your point, you have a guy right there, especially in a game like that when Joel's not playing. You're getting dominated anyway. Like, what do you have to? You're going to play Tyrese Maxey 38 minutes and play him 10 minutes in the fourth quarter of this game that you're down by 25 anyway, and let him get the minutes, but not try out. They had Beauchamp in the game. Like you said, I literally had that same thought. So I'm glad that glad that you're banging the drum for that.
Beauchamp's actually interesting. He's an athlete. I've called a couple of his games for the Bluecoats as well. Doesn't shoot it all that well, but he's an athlete. He's intriguing at least, but he's not going to really help you, I don't think, on the boards. I mean, he did have 4 boards in the game last night, but he's not a tenacious rebounder. This team needs a rebounder. Bassey does one thing. He rebounds. I don't know what else he can do to help you, but this team needs a rebounder. They lack a lot of depth now. Even when 100% healthy, the depth of this team is all of a sudden you're looking around and saying, man, Grimes, can I depend on him? McCain's no longer here. What's my guard depth look like? Without Paul George, I'm not getting anything really. Justin Edwards had a decent game last night, but he's not giving me enough consistency turns your attention to Watford here. Now, I was a big Watford guy. I like that signing a lot. The sad part is they're having to use him as a guard because they don't have any other guards.
Yeah, and that, in fairness to him, he looks pretty good in that role, Mike. And I think you've been saying that about his game. He's a little bit, he can handle the ball a little bit. He's a good passer. He has pretty good vision.
He's the secondary assist guy. He's the hockey assist guy. He's very good at starting
the Draymond Green role.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. He's very good there.
But yeah, I mean, to your point, the depth is a major concern. And last night was the perfect example. I mean, Paul George, you're out without him for basically the rest of the regular season. It's not like he's coming back in a week or two. He's out till the end of March, which I think they have 10 games back maybe when he returns. Like he's gone for the season. Jabari Walker, for now, can't play. He's maxed out his two-way. They have not converted him yet, so he's dead weight right now. I do expect something to happen there whenever the buyout market shakes out. But now, I mean, you're like you said, Mike, you're looking at guys like Kyle Lowry's playing. You need Justin Edwards is going to have to play legitimate minutes. Obviously, Bona, Drummond, Watford. These are guys that you didn't necessarily want to have to rely on to be legitimate rotation pieces. And now the Sixers are thin up and down the roster, Mike. They're thin in the backcourt. They're thin on the wings. Their best spot is probably in the front court where they still could use, like you have said multiple times, they could still use a rebounder there too. So, I mean, every spot up and down this roster now that you could highlight, you could make an argument that they're thinner than they should be for a team that has legitimate playoff aspirations.
So we move forward here. They got the All-Star break coming up. So tomorrow they play the Knicks, and then they are off again until the 19th when they play the Hawks. So this is it. It's a big game tonight, though, because last night you lose that game, which felt like, hey, you could have gone 4-1 on that West Coast trip. That would have been better than anybody could have anticipated. And look, to go 3-2 out west, that's a good job by them. Kind of end it with a thud there last night. But all of a sudden, you start to look at the standings, your gap between you and the Knicks and Boston is starting to separate a little bit more. And that loss last night, you've now become closer to Orlando. So if you play the Knicks and lose that game, you can almost say the 2 and the 3 spots are almost out of grasp. And now you're starting to get into play-in territory, and you're going to do it. Now you would hope to get Joel back. You're hoping Grimes is back. You're hoping Barlow's back. And you get one swing against the Knicks here on Wednesday night.
Yeah, to your point, I agree. I think that they are kind of separating themselves as not a top-tier team in the conference. Obviously, the Pistons, Knicks, and Celtics have that, I think the top 3 pretty much cemented. And then the Sixers are right in that middle, Cavs, Raptors, Magic, Heat, even right in that cluster. And that's the thing, it's going to, we're talking about the playoff rotation and would Jared McCain factor in, they need to get there first. There's still a lot of season left and they are thin, and it's going to be difficult to, keep their standings in the conference. And the unfortunate thing is, earlier this season, we were talking about how they looked like a team that was equipped to play and survive and win games when Joel Embiid wasn't available. And they've almost completely reverted. I think they've gone 1-5 in the last 6 games that Joel has not played. I'd have to double check, but I believe that they're 1-5 in the last 6 that he's been sidelined. Luckily, that's been spread out. His availability has, upticked tremendously since we flipped over to 2026. His absences have been much more few and far between, but it's noticeable on the court. And last night was a perfect example in that Portland game. They were lost offensively. If Maxi's, there's a lot of pressure on Maxi up top. He's struggling to score, struggling to move the ball. The Sixers just look lost on offense. They don't have any rim protection down low. Portland's getting line drives, layups up and down the court. The Sixers look like the old Sixers in terms of when Joel's out there and they're playing well, they look like they could contend with anybody and potentially be a real threat. But the second he's off the court recently, Mike, they, revert back to old ways, Maxi ISO, bad shot selection. And it's a concern, Mike, because earlier this year that looked like a strength of this team, that they had built this backcourt and this team that could, go on runs and withstand some Joel absences. And recently that has not been the case.
Speaking of Maxey, he's about to pass Iverson for the most threes in history, which Iverson was not a great 3-point shooter, but obviously he had a huge run here. And the more and more, we talked about this a while back about how Maxey and Iverson, the similarities between those two guys and whether Maxey hits that level and then passes him.
Yeah, it's a testament to the way the game's changed, Mike. I mean, like you said, Iverson is not a guy. When you think of Iverson, you don't associate him with 3-point shooting necessarily, but the number of games that he played to hit that mark in Philadelphia compared to the number of games that it's taken Maxey to get there, it just shows how much emphasis has been placed on the three ball. It's also a testament to Maxey. I mean, this is a guy coming into the draft, as you remember. Obviously, we talked about this at length at the time. Like, there was concerns about his ability as a legitimate floor spacer and 3-point shooter coming from Kentucky and making that jump to the NBA. He was, I want to say, like a low 30s 3-point shooter at Kentucky the season he was there. And there was, concerns as this kid, given his size, he's small, can he shoot? The fact that now he's about to be the most prolific, 3-point shooter in the franchise history, testament to the work he's put in, and just crazy how much emphasis is on the 3-point shot in the game today.
Well, that's for sure, and it goes back to our conversation, is the emphasis on the 3-point shot, and you have no one that can shoot a three. Max, right. Even though he – and by the way, Maxey seemingly hitting, I don't want to say a wall a little bit here, but he has cooled off from three, no doubt about it, right? I mean, and there's another whole conversation here, which is the confluence of – Maxey and Embiid, where this was clearly Maxey's team early, and there was a lot of discussion of, are the Sixers better without Embiid? Right now, they stink without Embiid. And I don't know that this is going back towards Maxey's team, Embiid's team, but they've lost 5 of their last 6 that Joel has not played in. And this goes back to, anytime you turn the team back to Maxey without Embiid, the team struggles. It's a weird dynamic here, and this isn't to take anything away from Maxey, but Embiid is playing at such a high level offensively that they can't afford not to have him out there.
It's true. No, it's 100%, Mike. And, credit to Joel for overcoming the slow start and the injuries. But he is back again to being like the central focal point of this offense. And when he's not out there, it's been rough sledding for this team recently. I mean, teams send doubles and pressure at Maxey at the top of the key, and the offense just bogs down. I think obviously some of that is on Nick Nurse to figure things out. But, I mean, the way this roster is, and especially without Paul George, Mike, too, I think that's a guy that can kind of create his own offense and give you some shots and make some things happen, even if Joel's not out there. So you subtract him and in a game when Joel's not playing, and then you get what you get last night, which is an offense that looks lost and completely out of rhythm and just having a difficult time getting easy baskets.
Well, 30-23 going into tomorrow night against the Knicks. The Sixers, frustrating week here, the trade deadline. And listen, the other thing about Jared McCain, he's the most popular guy on the team.
Yep.
That's another thing, is you traded a guy who's obviously the vibe of this team was very good. And then you trade him and you lost a guy that everybody liked. And it feels like it was like, we didn't even give this guy a chance. We all liked him. Why not give him a chance? Maybe he wasn't healthy. But you got very minimal. I mean, a first-round pick sounds like, wow, they got a first round. It's a shot in the dark pick, that Houston pick. They didn't get a lottery pick here. They got a shot in the dark pick. That's another thing that's frustrating about it.
And as people have pointed out, Mike, that there's a good chance that whoever that pick is, of course, they could move it, they could package it, but if you're picking later in the first round, you're hoping that you get a guy like Jared McCain that has the upside to potentially be an NBA rotation player and has a bankable skill set like shooting like McCain does. I mean, there's no guarantee that if you keep that pick that you're going to even get a player that can contribute in the manner that McCain did. So I think we're on the same page. They sold way too early on Jared McCain. I wouldn't have done it. If other things were also coming down the pipeline, like if they did have another move in place that could have helped the team more in the present, I think it would be more easy to swallow, Mike. But the combination of moving on from him, like you said, I think every single Sixers player had either like a social media post or talked about it after the games and the road trip, like how much they like Jared McCain, how much they're going to miss him in the locker room, how sad they were to see him go. And yeah, I mean, sometimes that stuff becomes more important than, the average fan even realizes. Like Joel had talked about how good the vibes in the locker room are. They haven't had a home game since, obviously, so I haven't been inside the locker room to assess how the vibes are post-deadline. But you have to imagine, it seems like the sadness of losing him and the depth and some of these injuries, you wonder if the vibes that Joel was saying were so high, are going to take a little bit of a hit now, given, the loss of a guy like Jared McCain.
Yeah, and listen, Oklahoma City, this is a team that is trying to win another championship, and they've had a couple cracks in the armor, and they just went and said, you know what, let's identify a guy that can help us. Not going to play a lot of minutes there, but can come in and give them a little offensive spark. It's exactly what he's done for them. So, if you, by the way, that's the first time that Oklahoma City has traded a first-round pick since 2015?
I saw that. That's impressive.
Crazy. So they identified a guy and said, you know what, that guy can help us. Over the past few weeks, McCain in Philly was 15 of 26 on threes over the last 6 games, 58%. So he was starting to come around a little bit. That thumb injury, I think, was a hindrance to him. And if they didn't see that and recognize that, man, that's a bad decision there. Now, what it means for the Sixers is, this is going to be a 3-guard team. Edgecombe, Maxey, Grimes. You're definitely going to have those 3 guys. You're going to be leaning on them. They weren't turning on to McCain to begin with, but they get nothing in return for those picks that they thought they could. So now you're in a situation where you better hope that you are in playoff position and that when Paul George gets back, that he is ready to go. Because, remember, you're going to play without Paul George for quite a while here.
The rest of the season, basically, Mike, till end of March. And that's what I was kind of getting at. Like, they're looking ahead to the playoffs, but where they're 6th right now, and it's not going to be easy to maintain that position in the East, especially with, guys banged up, especially with the lack of depth now. And it's just tough. I've been impressed at Oklahoma City. I know you were watching that game last night, the Thunder Lakers game. I saw you tweeting about it. The 2 games that he's played, Jared McCain, they've thrown him right into the fire, high leverage situations, fourth quarter minutes, like big situations. And he's looked good. It's been impressive. And it's impressive that, like you said, they identified a weakness. Like, the timing was great. SGA's out with an abdominal injury through the All-Star break. They were losing some games. They see a guy that they could potentially, for them, it's probably a buy low situation. Like, they have all these draft picks for the next 5 years that they don't mind parting with to bring in a guy that, maybe it'll work out. He has a nice skill set, and you bring him in and immediately throw him out there in high leverage situations, which the Sixers were not doing, this entire season with him. So it's obviously the verdict's still out, Mike, as is the case with every trade. But to me, it's going to be really interesting to relitigate this, a year from now down the road to see what type of player Jared McCain turns into with the Thunder.
Got a Thunder fan checking in. Says McCain has come in and been an immediate positive impact for us. Made some bad fouls on defense so far due to position or lazy feet, but there's a long leash there. Now he
Sounds
just
about right.
Yeah. I don't know if he's lazy. I just don't think he's very athletic.
Yeah,
right?
He struggles to move the feet. That's been a thing going back to last year, and I think the knee injury is still factoring into his mobility, the limit. I mean, he's never been a super quick guy. He's not a guy that's great at staying in front of his point of man on defense. But
he goes on to say his offensive shooting in his limited minutes has been enormous, getting to the rim, mid-range, or 3. We appreciate the trade. Yeah. Well, the word I would use, he's crafty. He creates stuff. He gets low, and then he knows when to kind of like shoot on the the falling back. He's got range. I think this was a miss by them. I don't know. Hopefully I'm way off on this, but I know some people don't like he's got the short arms. He's not like a dynamic scorer, but when he gets cooking, he gets into that little rhythm, and that's what he is. He's a guy that can come off the bench, give you 20, 25, and if he's cooking that night, you just let him go.
Yeah, and the description of exactly what the Sixers need, Mike. So it's tough to swallow. I think he's going to be well appreciated, as we saw by our friend from Oklahoma City. He got a standing ovation as soon as he checked into that game the other night, his first game. They seem to be embracing him there. There should be a role there. Hopefully he's able to thrive. If he does, obviously, it's going to make Daryl Morey look not so great, Mike. And in a couple months, we might be having a conversation about job security for both Nick Nurse and Daryl Morey when that day comes.
Well, that's a wrap on that trade because I'm getting more angry by the minute. All right. The Trust the Mics, we usually drop on Tuesday. Now, I will be away for quite a while. I'm going to Egypt. I'm going to find a guy that can shoot threes over there. I'm looking for the next Egyptian 3. I know Allah Abdel Nabi is Egyptian. Maybe I can find another, maybe because he could rebound, right? Maybe I could find a guy who can clean the glass over there.
They could use it.
But the Sixers are off for a while. They got a little break here, and then after the break, they will play the Hawks on the 19th. Then they pick back up. Nets, Timberwolves, Pacers, Heat, a bunch of games that are winnable games. So trust the mics as always. Hit the like button, share, subscribe, and we will be back with more for the playoff push here on the Trust the Mike Show. You got any final parting shots, MKB?
I don't think so, Mike. I think we covered all the bases. Enjoy that Egypt trip. I hope you come back with a sharpshooter for the Sixers. They could certainly use one.
All right, man. For MKB, I'm Mike Gill. This has been Trust the Mics, everybody. Next time here on the X platform and on YouTube. See ya.